Yep. Yep. So first of all, I just wanted to say that this is about digital footprints the digital footprint of a coup, right? And I want to say that in most of our national parks, right, they have a slogan or a saying on a sign somewhere, right, which is take only pictures, leave only footprints, right? And I just think that is so fitting for what we're going to discuss here, especially because the Capitol building, although it's a functional government building, it is sort of like a national park, right? There's the National Mall right there. It's the grounds are green, everything's right there. The reflective pond. It's a cool setting, and it very much is like a national park there. And during this insurrection, during this coup, that's exactly what these people did, right? They took pictures. And they left footprints. They left footprints by the means of digital footprints, right?
A lot of them.
And also those pictures that they were taking were also leaving footprints. So we'll get into that. So what I wanted to show you guys was there was someone who was doing live tweets of snap maps. Now, what snap maps are, if you use Snapchat, you're able to open up a snap map within the app, and it shows you a map of your locality, and all of your friends that you would normally interact with, where they are on the map. And if it doesn't show your friends, you can also zoom out and you can just sort of see a heat map of where other people are sending Snapchat messages from, right? Because it geotags those messages. And so what this person did is he focused his snap map on the Capitol and was able to catch in series screenshots of the heat map of people sending Snapchat messages as they moved in and around the Capitol building during the insurrection. So that's what this is. It's about a minute long. I stitched together all of his images. I'm going to go ahead and play it for you now. So this takes place from the timeline of 2:37 p.m. to 6:26 p.m. And that is from the timeline, the timestamps of his tweets. So as you can see here in the upper right-hand corner, it's at 2:39 p.m. That'll keep changing. And then I put the text of his tweet at the bottom. But you can see this is where people were actively participating in taking over the Capitol. We're sending Snapchat messages, and this was available to everybody. Those messages were being geolocated. And everyone can see this. So this is part of that take only pictures, leave only footprints. Well, they're leaving their digital footprint in more ways than one. So this is just one way, right? Snapchat should be able to go back into their logs and tell you every user that was sending messages at that time that was in that location. In fact, almost every social media platform that was used to send a message, a video, or a picture at that time, if the government wanted to, probably could subpoena them for those records, for those logs. Where were these users? Who was in that area at that time? So I thought this map was very interesting because it definitely shows the fluidity, the fluid movement of the crowd on both sides of the Capitol. And if you guys watched it, it actually shows them inside the Capitol building, sending Snapchats or snaps from inside the Capitol building before moving outside. And right here at the end of it, there was a curfew in DC at 6 p.m. So right before the 6 p.m. marker, if I back this video up, look how dark that is. That was when the police were starting to line up, getting ready for the curfew, and everyone was gathered along that front wall, right? I mean, we're seeing it right here. Now, this isn't representative of a one-for-one, person-for-person, but it's representative of those people who were sending messages at that time with Snapchat. And I think this is just one piece of the puzzle of the data you can gather on crowd movement.
Right. I think a key point that you brought up there was that the fact that, while this data that Snapchat is offering publicly doesn't associate the heat map with particular users, their logs do. Their logs absolutely do associate this user, this place, this time. And so it's interesting because one of the, again, social media hasn't existed for a mass scale insurrection like this. This is the first one that I'm aware. Again, in the US, I'm sure they've happened other places in the world. Sure. Right. Yeah. But in the US, so it's really interesting to see the data and looking at the fact that it's one of those things that I think your phone is a computer. It follows you. It's got unique identifiers that are associated with it. And that is your identity. And so if you were going to go do a robbery, the first thing you would do would be turn off your phone. But for whatever,
you want to take my screen down?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. For whatever reason, the the impetus this time was so many people were on social media. So many people were using their phone as a camera and recording what is this, this activity, which would be deemed criminal by most. And so I think that, it's just a really interesting dynamic, but it doesn't really stop there, because then you extend it to the fact that, there's a website out there, Parlor, right? That is social media specifically towards the political inclinations of the people who were there participating in this activity. Now, Parlor is relatively new to the scene. It's not been out for a very long time. It came out as kind of a alternative place for people to go who have this political leaning to go and communicate with other like-minded folks. And I'm trying to do it as politically correctly as I can, because I'm trying not to color it with my own.
Well, I tell you, before you get into Parlor, actually, I want to back up to something you said, which was your phones, that people were using them to take pictures and videos. I think everyone probably in the world who was aware of what was happening last Wednesday saw some form of that. So we know that was absolutely taking place, right? Everyone who was there was using their phone. Yeah. But this goes back to your digital footprint. What digital footprint are you leaving behind just by standing in front of a building with your phone on record, right? What is being left behind? Your phone is constantly pinging the cell towers.
Right.
It's constantly pinging the cell towers, first of all, to maintain connectivity. And second of all, for a data connection, because all of the apps on your phone, they need to phone home regularly to check in. Does so-and-so have new messages? Is there new email? Is there new this? Is there new that? So they're constantly phoning home, asking for new messages. So there's that. It's always being pinged. Your phone also, if you're in the middle of the grounds of the Capitol, you're not at your home Wi-Fi. So your phone is constantly probing and beaconing for all of the saved Wi-Fi networks. Right. And we know this. Anyone who's ever played with a Wi-Fi pineapple or done any sort of Wi-Fi sniffing can pick up everyone's phone in the area beaconing for their own home Wi-Fi. So if someone had some listeners out there during the insurrection, they'd be able to capture everyone's home Wi-Fi SSIDs. And while that's not telling, that is one piece of evidence, right? When you couple that with some other information like, my phone is always tethered to my headphones via Bluetooth. It's always reaching out for that connection. NFC, you have to be pretty close to get NFC, but there are all these communication methods that have unique identifiers. Wi-Fi has unique MAC address. Bluetooth has MAC address as well. I forget what the identifier is that the cell towers use. There's all this information. And when you put that all together, you can really identify someone's device.
Right,
and put them at location. So that's just by taking your phone and throwing it in a field, right? It's still doing all these things. It's trying to find your home Wi-Fi. It's trying to find the nearest cell tower. It's trying to find my own headphones, even though they're not in range. It's trying to do all of these things. And if anyone had a sensor out there that was listening, you're leaving that footprint behind without even making a phone call, without even sending an email, without telling anyone where I am. My phone is leaving that behind.
Right.
And so that's one of the things. There was all those people and everyone's phones are doing this all the time. So I wonder, if there were systems out there that are collecting this information during that. Maybe there were, maybe there weren't.
Yeah.
But this is just part of your digital footprint.
Right. It's the IMEI is what you were looking for the cell network. That's your unique identifier. Yep. No problem. But I think the point there is interesting. I think that also, thinking about it from the other side, anytime you talk about something that's security related or identity related, you want to look at it from both sides. As somebody who has a building that you need to protect like this, maybe there are mechanisms, right, to keep an eye on what's going on via collecting that information. I think that's very interesting. And an extension where I was heading with the Parlor conversation, an extension of this is Parlor, the social media site that is, specifically toward this political ideology. And a lot of people who were there were using this particular site. It was a relatively new site. And so it had been, kind of spun up in response to Twitter getting aggressive about trying to tamp down on what they consider to be fake information. And there's been a big political backlash, right, of people trying to escape the traditional social media channels because of their moderation. So Parlor, where this was touted as this place for, true free speech, we're not going to moderate you at all, which of course got them in all kinds of trouble, which was, you could see from 800 miles away. But the data was exfiltrated from that site before they were taken offline. And what they did is they did a couple of things that were very interesting. And this is true for most social media sites. Now, the mature social media sites maybe aren't doing this because we've had past interactions. But one of the things that Parlor wasn't doing is they weren't removing the EXIF data from your photos. Meaning that
they weren't scrubbing them.
Yeah, they were not scrubbing your photos, meaning that you had GPS location, GPS location, you had time, other type of identifying information that was actually in the photo. So if you were to download the photo, you could go and look at it with an EXIF reader. You could pull all that stuff out.
The type of camera, the mechanics, the lens, everything, exactly. All the components of your camera. Yep, absolutely. So a bunch of data about the device that it was taken on, where it was taken, and this information. Of course, there were a lot of photos that were taken that day from people who were there who were promised a sense of anonymity on this platform, right, that ultimately doesn't look like it's going to end up being true. The other thing that was that happened from there is obviously, a lot of people would, when they realized that they were in trouble, went back to go delete things that they may have posted. And, the old adage is true. Nothing on the internet ever goes away. What Parlor was doing is, rather than actually deleting the content, they were setting a bit to call it deleted. And then if that bit was set, not displaying it on the page. And so because of that, all that data was still in the database. So when the data was exfiltrated out, all this stuff, it wasn't, if you had a user had deleted content, it now wasn't deleted. Like, it wasn't actually deleted. And it's just really interesting to see the combination of social media, personal device, technical awareness, when it comes to the devices themselves. There's also a component to this that is about the security of the Capitol itself. And I want to talk about that for just a couple of minutes. Because the idea is, physical access is king when we're talking about security. So it doesn't, physical access is king.
Once you're touching something, it's no longer secure. And we just had a whole bunch of random people walk into the Capitol. Now, most of them were political activists one way or another, but I'm just going to say something. If you were a foreign agent and you worked in Washington, D.C., and you weren't in the middle of that crowd, you were derelict with your responsibilities. Like, if you're a spy from Russia, if you're a spy from China, if you're a spy from somewhere else, and you're here and you weren't in that crowd, like, you have fallen down on the job, because there was an opportunity for you to walk into a federal building unsupervised that could have happened. Yeah, just walk right in. And so I am highly confident that there were foreign agents who were in the middle of all of this, who got free and wide access to our Capitol building. We know that there's been some equipment that's been stolen. I have concerns about that. And also, it's not as concerning. I think that there's a whole conversation around that. I think it's probably not secure machines the way that they're reacting. But when we were talking about this before, like they have to audit absolutely everything. They've got to go back and make sure that every device that's connected to a port is actually a device that they own and that they control. Because can you imagine just taking in a Raspberry Pi and dropping it in?
I was going to say, you take a Raspberry Pi in, or they have these things called LAN turtles, which are the size of a flash drive, and you just plug them into an RJ45 jack, and they show up online, and they can run commands. They can phone home. They can give someone a shell. They're pretty useful. It takes like 2 seconds to plug it in. You have to walk away. That's it.
Capitol's a pretty big building. I mean, it's just so, dropping that somewhere may not be the hardest thing. Maybe they have port security, but I mean, like, how many places have you been into that actually run port security? Like, not a lot.
So I think what we were going to talk about was, like, could you imagine being the night shift IT crew for the Capitol building and seeing that on TV and just going like, oh, now I need to generate the inventory list and cross-reference that against all the MAC addresses currently in the MAC address table, right? And making sure every piece of inventory is accounted for and identified. And I just think that was that's the big question. We don't know what happened with physical security. With the people physically occupying it, if anything could have happened. So we're all just speculating.
Right.
So we got to see a lot of people recording cell phone recordings on the news, on YouTube, on every social media platform, but we don't get to see the CCTV from inside the Capitol. There's security cameras, CCTV, there's stuff everywhere. Right. And we're not going to see that for a very long time, I'm sure. But I wonder what that sees. All these speculations that people say, well, so-and-so was over in the corner. Now, what were they doing? Were they plugging something in? Were they putting something under the desk? Well, what did those cameras see? That's kind of what I want to know. We're seeing it from the perspective of someone's cell phone, but what do the eyes that watch you, what do they really see? So we'll see how this plays out. But the whole point of this is, even though no matter what, you're leaving a footprint behind. Just like the saying from the national parks, take only pictures, leave only footprints. That's exactly what you're doing. Even if you thought you were being an anonymous criminal, someone that was going to get away with something by being just another voice in the crowd. Now there's a lot of data out there to be able to identify you personally. And actually, I just want to show one more thing. If you want to put my screen up, I'll just show one more thing, and then we'll finish here.
Go for it.
So this is a map of the U.S. This was just released a few hours ago. This is called the Parlor Map. If you see here, it's KyleMcDonald.net. Someone scraped all of the EXIF data out of the photos and videos that were uploaded to Parlor and then siphoned out, and then plotted them on the map. And so this is obviously something you can zoom in very far to. So actually, I went and zoomed in on my area, and I found
out your neighbors, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Wouldn't you? That's the first place you're going. So I'm going to my home, and I'm just outside
Don't
DC.
But
yeah,
Tony.
I found. No, I won't. But I found one person right in this area who's on the outskirts of my town, and not. Hey, I believe in everyone having their own political choices. Okay, but I don't believe in people being criminals. So I don't know what the nature of these postings were, but I thought that was very cool. So again, if we zoom into the Capitol, take a look at this, right? Look at all this.
Look at that line. I wonder what that line represents. What two buildings are connected with that line? It looks an awful lot like the White House and the Capitol.
So isn't this data pretty cool? So this is just data. I mean, this is so cool. I love it. I love data. Yeah, that's all. I wanted to show it. It was hot off the press, so I wanted to get it out there. And if what I'll do is I'll drop some of these links in chat real quick, and we'll move on.
All right, sounds good. Path Solutions has over 2 decades of experience building network monitoring systems designed to give you total network visibility. TotalView's automation means it can be fully deployed and configured in minutes, monitoring every device, interface, and server in your entire infrastructure. And it goes deep, collecting performance, configuration, 19 different error counters, PoE, and QoS statistics on every single interface. Now, all of this information is automatically analyzed to produce plain English answers. Problems get solved faster because more information and intelligence is brought to bear. This is what total network visibility is all about. Knowing more about your network than with any other solution. TotalView is easy to acquire as everything is included in the core offering. NetFlow, diagramming, path mapping, server monitoring, network automation, IPAM, cloud service monitoring, and more. Putting your trust in a monitoring system can require a leap of faith. From inception, TotalView has a more secure architecture and build process that helps to protect their customers. Contact Path Solutions today, where you can learn more about their competitive upgrade program, Total Network Visibility, rapidly deployed. Find out more at www.pathsolutions.com.